Welcome, students, one and all. In this episode, Mr. Armstrong teaches characterization, both direct and indirect. What is characterization? Perhaps you see the word character in that word. That's what it's about. But let's take a look at a definition. What is characterization? Basically, any information that we learn about a character. Could be about the way that they look, the way that they act, the way that they dress, the way that they feel. Any detail at all that we can learn about a character is called characterization. And so a writer has a variety of different ways of getting this information across. And it can be broken into two main categories, direct and indirect. We'll start with direct characterization. Direct characterization, as you may have been able to figure out, is when the reader is directly told by the narrator some detail about the character. It's very direct. They just say, this character is this way. This character does this. This character is this. We're just told. Some examples of direct characterization might look like this. Naomi was incredibly smart. Right? We're just told that she's smart. We don't see her doing something smart. We're just told she is smart. Or the dog had brown spots. We're just told this fact. He was afraid to go skydiving. Once again, we are just told he's afraid. We're not shown that he's afraid. We're not seeing him behaving in a way that suggests that he might be afraid. The narrator tells us he is afraid. Or she was the oldest lady in the village. All of this is very direct. If this was in a story, the narrator would just be telling you flat out that this is the way this particular character is. You're being told. Got it? This will become even more apparent once we look at some examples of indirect characterization. But first, a definition. So if direct characterization is when we're told how a character is, indirect characterization is when the reader is shown by the narrator some detail about the character. This could be through speech, thoughts, effect, actions, or looks. And we'll take a look at some examples of each of those different types. But basically, instead of the narrator just telling you, the narrator shows you some details about the character. Let's take a look at some examples. We'll start with speech. I love rainbows, Starla squealed. It's a very short little sentence, but I love rainbows with that exclamation point and the fact that Starla squealed it, right? We are shown through some speech something about that character Starla. We have a slightly better understanding of Starla now. Or in the second example, the whole world is out to get me, he grumbled. Once again, through this dialogue, through this speech, we learn a little something about this character. This character seems like maybe a little paranoid, perhaps, certainly unhappy. Indirect characterization through speech. Next up, indirect characterization through thoughts. I wanted to scream but forced a smile onto my face. This is a first-person narrator, and we know what the character is thinking. That thought tells us what's going on for that character. We are indirectly informed about something that's going on for this person. Or, they'll never find the gold, he thought to himself. Sometimes characters think to themselves in dialogue, and that can be another way that someone's thoughts can give us information about that someone, about that character. Next up, effect. So this is cause and effect. Something happened, and this is the outcome. This is the effect. For instance, you might be shown that there was a hole in the wall the size of a fist. That is a result of an action. We see that result that tells us a little bit about the character that might have created that effect. Or the audience was standing, whistling, and cheering them on. These people are reacting to something that happened. It is an effect, and that effect tells us something about these characters, both the characters as the audience and whoever is being cheered on. We learn something about those people in this moment. It's an effect. And next we have actions. Jeff walked up to the boy, knocked the sandwich from his hands, and stomped on it. We are not told that Jeff is mean, but we are shown him doing something mean, which gives us information about him as a character. Or Piper gave her ice cream cone to the crying boy who dropped his. Once again, we're just witnessing an action. We're being shown some behavior, which informs us about the character Piper. We learn something about that character indirectly. One more, and it is looks, or facial expressions. The shopkeeper sneered at the teenagers. We learn a little something about the shopkeeper in that moment, how he might feel about those teenagers. Or her cheeks went red and she smiled, looking at the ground instead of her date. Once again, we are being shown looks, we are being shown some facial expressions, and that informs us about these characters. Indirect characterization. Got it? I sure hope so, because that's the end. If you have any questions about characterization, please post them in the comments below and I will get back to you. If you have ideas about future episodes of Mr. Armstrong Teaches, put those in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day, and I look forward to teaching you again very soon.